Hello and welcome to everyone. Today our guest is Dewey Cooper. Dewey, thank you so much for accepting the call for the interview, and I'm very much honored to have such a legend of the sport today. So can you please say a few words about yourself or the introduction so we can continue with the interview? Thank you so much again.
Hello, my name is Dewey Black Cobra Cooper. I'm a two-time world champion kickboxer. I was inducted in the Masters of Martial Arts Hall of Fame in 2008, and I'm also a head fight coach. I won 8 world titles as a head coach. I won 5 world titles with the boxer Jessica Raging Rakosi. I won a world title with the Kazakhstan light heavyweight WBA champion Beibut Chumanov. I won a world title, a welterweight WBO world boxing title with Jesse Vargas when he knocked out Saddam Ali, and we later lost the belt to Manny Pacquiao. And I won a world kickboxing championship, the WKA, with the undefeated fighter from Jordan, Amir Abdallah.
Thank
And
you
now,
so
by the
much.
way, I'm Francis Ngannou's coach, the UFC heavyweight Francis Ngannou's coach. I also train UFC fighter Kevin Lee. I trained the Moldovan Hulk, Yuan Kutaleva. I trained Keith Lee, a Bellator fighter. Daniel Strauss, a Bellator fighter. So many fighters, man. I trained Carlos Takam, the French heavyweight champion boxer right now. I got so many things going on in the sport of boxing and mixed martial arts. I'm blessed and I'm happy.
Outstanding. When did you start training? You had pretty much amazing career. So when did you first time start training Muay Thai kickboxing? What was your basic martial art?
Yeah, I started training right when I turned 9 years old. My first sport was Muay Thai, and I did it basically my whole life. I fought in the amateurs. I turned professional. I had my first amateur smoker fight at 10 years old, and I just fell in love with fighting competition. I played sports and all of that growing up. I played football, played basketball, I ran track, but there's nothing like fighting. My favorite things as a kid were football and fighting. And when I say football, I'm talking American football, not soccer.
I know, I know. Can you please elaborate the meaning of your tattoos?
um, well, first of all, a lot of people who see me nowadays, all the new fans who didn't realize I was a fighter, they just see me as a coach. People always wonder why when I'm walking out Francis Ngannou or Kevin Lee for the fights, I have this sleeve up. I always have one sleeve up when it's fight time. It's because I have this very cool, it's called scarification on my arm. If you look, it's not a tattoo. They took a scalpel and carved it in my skin. This is the strength god. It's the god of strength. The Kemet strength god, ancient Egypt, the first civilization in this world. And this is the strength god. So I got that cut in with a scalpel. It hurt like crazy, but I really wanted it. And that's why I pull this sleeve up when it's time to fight, because I want the strength of the gods to bless us in the ring for a successful night. I also have on this arm my logo, BK, Black Cobra, with flames and a snake and everything on my arm, a cobra, because I'm the Black Cobra. My first coach, my first Muay Thai coach gave me my name, Black Cobra. A lot of people think because I'm a black man, I'm an African American man, that's why I call me Black Cobra, but that's not the case. I am a black man, African American for sure, but the black represents the Black Cobra, the actual reptile Black Cobra. My first coach said when I throw punches, it's like a cobra strike, and he called me Black Cobra, and that's where the name comes from. I'm the Cobra, I'm Black Cobra. The black represents black belt, not the color of my skin.
So what can you say about your K1 career? You fought some great names, you had great career, you competed at
Oh,
Japan, and who was the greatest challenge? Who was the most demanding challenge? You know, the highlights.
yes, well, K1 was very tough. People don't realize very few Americans were invited to fight in the K1. Well, let me restate that. Very few American kickboxers were signed contract fighters in the K1. I was one of the few guys, me, Maurice Smith, Rick Rufus, and only a few, Carter Williams, and only a few others. We were signed K1 fighters, not just the guy that would have a K1 fight every now and then. Um, all the fights were tough. My career, I was the smallest K1 fighter until Cal Kalad, the 175-pound Muay Thai fighter, got in K1. But I was, for many years, the smallest fighter in all of K1. And I was actually a cruiserweight kickboxer, 190 pounds. But the money in K1 was so much greater in the heavyweight division, I moved up. I was barely 200 pounds. I was only 90 kilos, fighting guys 120 kilos. But the money was so much greater, I had no choice. It's make $3,000 or $30,000. So, I moved up to K1. Every fight was tough, but my two most tough opponents, believe it or not, I would have to say was Ruslan Kayev. He was a Russian kickboxer, very fast, very skilled, very powerful fighter, had over 100 wins, over 100 knockouts in his career. He was really a great fighter. And the other toughest fight I had, I'd have to say, was the Canadian kickboxer Michael McDonald. I fought guys like Peter Orts. I fought Gary Goodrich. I fought so many excellent fighters, but those two guys were the best because they had speed and very high skills. The big, hard-hitting guys were tough, but I could handle those guys pretty well. But Michael McDonald and Ruslan Kayev gave me big trouble because they were fast and as skilled as I was.
So what do you think about boxing? How did it go for you?
Oh, boxing was good. Remember, I was a lifetime kickboxer. I got into boxing because I live in Las Vegas. I go to the boxing gyms a lot to spar. I was doing cross-training back in the 90s. I would kickbox spar twice a week, and I would do boxing sparring once a week, just to get my hands better, especially when I moved up to the heavyweight division in K1, because the guys were much bigger and much stronger than me. I was at the gym one day sparring with these champion boxers like Montel Griffin, so many other guys, David DeFeobun, Duncan Ducarari, like all these top 10 boxers. And Jeff Mayweather, one of the Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s uncle, saw me boxing and was like, "Hey, are you a boxer?" He didn't know I wasn't a boxer. He said, "Man, you have really good boxing skills," but I was only a kickboxer at the time, never straight boxing. And he said, "You should think about having a boxing career." So I started training with Jeff Mayweather. We had a long boxing career, 25 fights, only 3 losses, and I did pretty good. But boxing was a secondary thing for me. I'm a kickboxer to the heart. My first love, my first passion was kickboxing, Muay Thai kickboxing, or K1 rules kickboxing. I was signed to Guilty Promotions in boxing. I moved on to Top Rank. But I was boxing professionally and kickboxing professionally at the same time. I had dual contracts, and I tore my ACL in a fight against Brazilian kickboxer Glabe Fritoso. He was a Brazilian kickboxing champion, 6'5", 6'6", big, strong, good kicking guy. And I tore my ACL really badly. Took me out the sport for about 10 months, and my boxing career kind of ended there. Because I had restructured my K1 contract and I stuck to the kickboxing because that was my first love anyway. But I had a good boxing career. I fought Arthur Williams for the cruiserweight title. I lost the majority decision to him, and that was basically it. I never retired from the fighting sports, but people started wanting to train with me and stuff like that. So, I just transitioned into being a fighter and a coach. People don't realize in the middle of my fighting career, I was also a trainer. Jessica Rakosi and I won her first world title in 2002. I was in the prime of my career. I would fight and coach on the same shows in boxing. So I'm just one of these guys. I did a lot of things, and my boxing career was good. I have a winning record, so it was good. And I learned a lot in boxing. So I'm one of the only guys in the world who's a real boxer, real kickboxer, and who transitioned and fought professionally in mixed martial arts as well. So that's why to this day I still train high-level boxers and high-level mixed martial artists.
So when did you actually start coaching people? You said in 2002 your career was at the
Well,
peak back then, right?
yes, yes. I started before then, but I started coaching professionals in 1999. We won our first world title in 2002. Um, when you grow up in a martial arts environment, as you know, I'm sure, when you're doing martial arts, you have classes, and the upper belt guys sometimes train the lower belt kids and inexperienced people. You know what I mean? My head coach would train me, and in return, after I finished training, I had to train classes and train the lower level students. So I've been training people since I was like 16 years old. You know what I mean? I've trained people underneath me basically since I was 15, 16 years old. It became a profession, and I started getting paid for it in 1999.
That's outstanding. You mentioned your most notable students. That's great. What do you think of fighting Southpaw? Is it harder to coach someone who fights Southpaw, or is it easier to you?
Um, it's probably easier for me because I'm a southpaw. I'm a natural southpaw. My whole life I fought southpaw. I write with my left hand. I throw with my left hand. I'm a natural southpaw. So I understand the different dynamics of being a southpaw. I understand the slight advantages the southpaw may have because we're always sparring with right-handed guys. I know what to do, and I also know how to train to be the southpaw because I've been a southpaw training and fighting my whole life. So, in my real opinion, it doesn't matter if you're a southpaw or orthodox, left-handed or right. It goes by what you have inside, the blessings God gave you to be a real good athlete and be a warrior, and if you get the right coach and utilize your abilities to your fullest. It don't matter if you're lefty or righty. It's about what fight you bring to the table on fight night.
Now, this is a kind of more technical question. What do you say between rounds? To your fighter, how do you recover him between rounds? Him or her, I mean.
Yeah, well, it's different things. I always tell them what the person is trying to do to them first, and then I tell them what they should do. Because as the round ends, I want the last thing for them to hear is what they need to do to win. So I have a real simple formula. I don't give a lot of instruction. I don't want to crowd my fighters. When they sit down, I have them breathe, get water, focus on recovery for about the first 15 seconds, and then I give them simple instructions. Normally, it's what they're doing, especially if the opponent is having success on my fighter. I'll say, hey, he's landing too many right hands, too many takedowns, or he's kicking the leg too much. Oh, he's hitting you with too many power shots. Whatever the guy is doing good first, I tell him that first. Then, and it's very simple, 4 or 5 words, never a lot of words, very simple instruction. Then after I tell him what the opponent is doing, I sip water again, and like the last 15, 20 seconds, I tell him what he needs to do to be successful that round. To me, it's very important for a fighter to hear the last thing before he goes back to fight again. It's what he needs to do to be successful in the next round.
According to you, you have a very much long coaching career. How much time is needed to create a good fighter? Not champ, good fighter.
Yeah, well, champions are rare, like you said. But good fighters, there's a lot of intangibles. There's a lot of variables. When I get fighters, if they're a pro and had a long amateur career, the story's already been written. You know what they can do. You know their limitations because they have a big catalog of fights to research and see. Oh, he's good with brawler. Oh, he's not good with tall, fast guys with good jabs. You can read them. But a fighter is not a very well experienced fighter, and they're starting with little experience. It's hard to know. It may take 2 years. It may take 5, 6 years. It goes by the talents the fighters has. It goes by the mentality. It goes by the work ethic. So if I get a fighter, let's say I get a good athlete who wants to become a fighter, the first thing I do is talk to them about how they grew up. Did they have a tough life? They have an easy life? Are they very competitive? How do they accept losing? How do they feel when they win? All these different things, because it matters. Not saying that guys who had a good life, silver spoon in their mouth, everything was taken care of their whole life, cannot fight, because some can. But I find in my research of fighters, and I've trained over 200 fighters in my life. I trained a lot of fighters. Guys who came from harder neighborhoods, rougher environments growing up, tougher, worse situations, many times are the better fighters, because as a kid they had to fight a lot. There was a lot of negativity around them, and they had to push through and fight through those things, which proves they have heart and they're warriors naturally. You get a guy with heart, you get a guy who's a psychological warrior, who don't break down because of pressure, stress, and bad times. They normally become the best fighters if they get the right trainers. So it just goes by the person. I would say it would take at least 2 years to make a good fighter, 2 to 6 years. Goes by how athletic they are, goes by what they're made of inside. Strong heart, strong will, not lazy. Those are the characteristics that I look for.
If you could pinpoint to 3 most important characteristics of a fighter, which one would that be?
3 most important characteristics, I can tell you right now. The most important characteristic for any fighter, number 1 most important characteristics is having a strong mind. Your mind must be more strong than your body, because there's so many fighters in the history of fighting that were very strong and weak minds, and we see them break down at crucial moments in their career. Muhammad Ali is the greatest fighter ever. Arguably, Sugar Ray Robinson or Muhammad Ali are the 2 greatest fighters ever. Both these guys have one characteristic that could not be broken. They had a strong mind. And from that strong mind, the next characteristics is strong heart, number 2, and number 3, which Mayweather brought to the forefront of boxing, which Floyd Jr. brought to the forefront of boxing, is intelligence, fight IQ. If you have a strong mind, strong heart, and you're smart, those are 3 hard combinations to beat. And remember, each one of those characteristics has like 10 things that goes with having those characteristics. If you have a strong mind, you don't mind getting up 6 in the morning, running in the mountains when it's snowing or raining or bad weather. If you have a strong mind, you're going to be disciplined and go to the gym every day, even when you're tired and sore and life is bad and you're stressed the fuck out. You know what I mean? If you have a lot of heart, you don't care who you have to spar to get better. You'll spar guys much better than you, much stronger than you, just to get the experience to get better. And if you're smart, you'll know how to make adjustments in the ring during the fight. These 3 things are by far the most important characteristics of a fighter. We see many athletes, we see many strong fighters, but guys with those 3 characteristics become great. And every great fighter that you know, from Costa Zoom to Mayweather Jr., Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Klitschko, Lennox Lewis, whoever you like, they had those 3 elements.
According to you, who was the most demanding fighter you've ever trained? But I'm talking about the fighter who achieved very good results, you know?
When you say the most demanding, explain what do you mean? You mean the hardest, most difficult to train, or the one who accomplished the most? What do you mean?
Both parameters. When you combine both parameters, you know what I mean. The fighter who really took you a lot of energy but achieved something really, really well.
Well, there's one guy. No one's close to him. No one is close to him. No one is close to him. Salam alaikum. My Muslim brother from Kazakhstan, Shifty Kazakhstan, Beirut Shuganov, for sure. For sure. Beirut Shuganov. And I'm not saying it disrespectfully, I respect him and love him. But for sure, Beirut Shuganov. If he ever sees this, he's going to be mad. He's going to call me and say, what the fuck? It's not an insult, but he was definitely the most demanding and hardest guy I ever trained. And he made me a better coach because after him, there are certain things I will not put up with no matter what. And certain things that I expect from fighters. And he pushed me to both extremes. Beirut Shuganov by far.
So it was a life-changing experience for you, right?
Definitely. Think about this. Everyone says, oh, I train 12 hours a day. Everyone says that. You talk to guys, how do you train for this fight? Oh, I train 12 hours a day, and they train like 3 or 4. You know what I mean? He trained 12 hours a day, and you were there with him. You know what I mean? He was a lunatic when it came to training. No one trained harder than him. I can tell you that right now. It was very demanding. It was very demanding for sure. But like I said, he became a world champion in 7 fights. I mean, Beirut was a incredible fighter, Olympian. He was an Olympian in Kazakhstan, and his work ethic took him to the top of the world, man. But no one was more rewarding and more difficult than Beirut Shuganov. And I still love him to this day.
Yeah, I understand. Do you train BKFC fighters too?
Which one?
Bare knuckle.
Oh, yes. Bare knuckle is crazy, man. It's crazy, but it's exciting. And bare knuckle is for special people. You have to be a real warrior to fight bare knuckle because the science means very little. The heart, the balls, and the real warrior mentality means most.
So bare knuckle is technically more demanding than boxing, according to you, or?
No, it's not more demanding for sure. Boxing is the most demanding sport. People don't realize that. All these MMA guys nowadays say, oh, real fighting is mixed martial arts, not boxing. I don't agree with that. Boxing is the most difficult sport out of all fighting because you only have 2 weapons. You don't have the low kick to rely on. You don't have your takedowns, your grappling, or getting on top to rely on. If your hands aren't working properly that day, it's going to be a beating, and there's nothing you can do about it. In mixed martial arts, you have so many different ways to win. It makes it more exciting, makes it more compelling, but it makes it less difficult because the more weapons you have, the less difficult of a fight you have. In boxing, it's a very simplified science. It's much, the speed of the punches are much faster, the reflexes are much faster. And let me tell you something, you compare a boxer's punch to a mixed martial artist punch or even a kickboxer's punch, whole different level. So boxing is the most simple art, but definitely the most difficult because you have to be a real expert to be a high-level boxer. In other fighting styles, you have to be good, but you don't necessarily have to be an expert to be really great at it. You have to be good at many different things. So boxing is very difficult. And I say boxing is the most difficult sport. More people die in boxing than any other fight sport every year, which should tell you something. And it's a brutal sport, man. It's a brutal business, and it's a brutal sport. I tell people, in mixed martial arts, you lose 1, 2, 3, 4, even 6 fights. It's not the end of the world. You lose more than 2 fights in boxing, unless you're already a legend, your career is over. So boxing, the business of boxing, and the sport itself is much more demanding than what people think.
Considering bare knuckle is the new sport, this is the last question. Can you pinpoint to the greatest differences in training bare knuckle guy and a boxer or MMA guy?
Bare knuckle, you really have to focus on a lot of defense. You have to focus on pinpoint punching and really placing your hands correctly, and a lot of old school martial arts tactics as far as conditioning the hands. In boxing, MMA, and kickboxing, yes, some coaches help the guys condition their hands, but you know, no matter what, you're getting your hands wrapped and you're putting either a 4-ounce MMA glove on, 8 or a 10-ounce boxing glove on. So at some point, your hands are going to have some level of protection. In bare knuckle, you have to really go back to the old school ways of training. Push-ups on your knuckles, punching the boards, hitting the heavy bags bare-fisted to really develop your knuckles. A lot of wrist exercises, things that a lot of boxers, MMA guys, and kickboxers don't focus on so much. Some of them do, but you don't see a lot of MMA guys and kickboxers or boxers spending 30 minutes on conditioning their hands. They hit the pads and hit things to condition their hands. Bare knuckle boxing, you have to take that time and really get deep into the hand conditioning and stuff like that. Otherwise, you'll break your hand in the first round. Secondly, you have to place your punches really well. Sharp punches, not too many thuddy punches. And third, you have to really work on defense because the cuts are extreme in bare knuckle boxing. So it's slightly different from regular boxing, but you still need to teach them defense that a boxer would have, but really placing those punches nicely, intelligently, and strategically.
Thank you so much for this. Would you like to say something else, maybe to greet someone? Maybe we missed something you would like to add?
I'd just like to say thank you. First of all, thank you for giving me the interview. I appreciate it. I'm a martial artist, and when you're a true martial artist, it's all about spreading the knowledge. So I try to help as many people as I can. If you have any questions, anyone out there watching this video, message me, ask me a question. I'm down to help you if I can, because that's what we're here for. We're supposed to pass this knowledge on. I've been training for 36 straight years, almost 37. And the knowledge I've gained, I like to spread it to people to help them become better martial artists and better fighters, and hopefully someday champions and legends. That's what I'm about, man. Black Cobra Striking Systems, as you can see on the shirt. BKSS, hashtag. I appreciate the love and support. If you're on Instagram, follow me at DC Black Cobra. DC Black Cobra. I spell Cobra with a K, not a C. Also, there's a new social media platform called Zoom, becoming public next month. Zoom, TSU. Check it out. Join, and it's going to be the next level of social media platforms. I'll send you the information for you to join, man. It's going to be the next level in social media. It's called Zoo or Zoo Live. TSU, it stands for the social universe. The social universe. I told you guys first. In about 4 or 5 weeks from now, the whole world's going to be on it. And just remember, Dewey Cooper told you first. Appreciate the love. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Thank you so much, Dewey. I will now start creating video. You can expect it maybe. I'll just go sleep now. You can expect it maybe in a few hours. It will be up.
No problem, my brother. And remember, Zoski.
I will. Have a great day, Dewey.